Guy McPherson here, along with Peter Miller, psychologist from Canada, and we are creating our seventh of seven videos here in a series based on a blog post put together by Colorado University in Boulder. The blog post is titled 6 Tips for Coping with Climate Anxiety. It was released April 18th, 2024 on the University of Colorado website, and this is the seventh and final episode. Please go to the first episode we did, which was released Monday, June 17th, and that'll provide the context about what we're talking about today and in the previous half a dozen videos. Today's headline is called Talk to Someone About How You're Feeling, and I think that's a great idea, especially if that person you're talking to is Peter Miller. Peter?
Well, I mean, I enjoy my lifestyle being a therapist, having the opportunity to talk to people, getting to know them and having conversations with them in ways that they often don't have the opportunity to have, which means like to be given space and to be receive empathy, compassion. Um, like in a lot of circumstances, I mean, as you were mentioning the subject of, talking and being open. I think a lot of people are afraid to be open, not only about this subject, but like about any subject that they have any feelings about, because there's a good chance that they will get invalidated when they say, I feel this way. People will say, oh, you shouldn't feel that way. You shouldn't feel that way. You shouldn't think like that. And even if they have good intentions, like people will be like, I'm just trying to help you think in a more positive way. But at the same time, you're not hearing the emotions at all, right? So if anyone has like an increased emotional sensitivity, like a person who inherited an unfortunate condition like BPD, there's lots of emotionally sensitive people. Some develop BPD, some don't. But anyway, I guess what I'm trying to say is not every conversational context is nourishing or safe. Sometimes you'll be around, or frequently, you'll be around people who don't know how to respond in ways that are emotionally supportive. So people often give up on interacting for that reason.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um,
In fact, this section 6 of this blog post, Talk to Someone About How You're Feeling, is comprised of only 3 sentences. So I'm going to read all 3 sentences, and that's going to lead in directly to considerable information from Peter. I'm just sure of it. Climate anxiety is a very real experience, and it's not something you have to go through alone. If your feelings start to affect your life or ability to cope day to day, it can be helpful to talk to someone about it. Reaching out to a friend, family member, or mental health provider can help you work through your feelings and practice coping skills. So, how about that? Reaching out to a family member, friend, or mental health provider. Peter, do you have something to say about that?
Well, again, I think it depends. Some people are better at having conversation and listening, whether it be a friend or family member. I mean, I hope you would hope that a therapist would be equipped with some of the skills to provide, a healthy space and where you could feel understood, no matter what you're talking about. Um, I guess what I'm trying to say is, because on the one hand, you could say just be open and have conversation. But the reality is that people often don't feel safe in the situations they're in and the people that are around them, even if they're nice people. Like they could be nice people and still really suck at communicating, right? Or really suck at listening, and not know how to offer space, not know how to be empathetic. And that's one of the common tragedies, actually, in relationships and families. You have these really caring people, like they're really nice, right? They want to do well and they want to help their family members, but they don't have the right tools to interact in ways that help preserve and sustain the relationship. They
Mhm.
keep accidentally breaking the relationship, right?
Right.
And if the topic is climate change and environmental disaster, that could probably even more easily be invalidated because people don't, I don't know, they probably they want to dismiss that because it's extra scary subject matter.
Right, absolutely. It's like you're bringing up the idea of the death penalty, the death penalty, not to be confused with the Beth penalty. Right? You're bringing it up with somebody who's on death row. Come on.
Right. Well, and I mean, I've been mocked many times, even by the people in my midst, about this interest that I have. I have this interest in talking to Guy McPherson and this interest in extinction. I think it's a real potential. Like, I don't think there's any way to 100% project and predict when, but in consideration of everything I've learned about health, and to me, it just makes sense to kind of uh, to see a correlation between human health and also, I guess, environmental health. I just see ever since I've been talking with Guy, I've seen this correlation. We don't take very good care of ourselves. We don't take very good care of the environment. And when you don't take care of either of those, there's consequences, right?
Right. Right.
And so I think, this is where me and you have aligned along the way. Um, but it's hard to get people to see it that way. There's so many ways to oversimplify human life, and I think that's what we're really good at. We're just really good at oversimplifying and not looking at some of the important pieces, so that we can hold this ideology of, like, the right political perspective, and how to be human. It's easy to stand for something when you're not looking at the big picture. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Right. Yes.
um, and of course it would feel better to stand for something if it was oversimplified. Like of course it would. Like,
Uh,
it's not easy to acknowledge that, we've let each other down over the years in the ways that we have systematically learned to neglect our health. Like, that's a pretty sad subject, and also systematically neglect the health of our planet. That is the hand that feeds.
right.
Like, it's not the capitalist that's the hand that feeds, it's the freaking earth, right?
Yes.
But I think we've lost sight of that terribly.
In fact, almost every time when I'm at a restaurant, and I stole this idea from a friend, when I'm at the restaurant and the server comes around, and it's the last time, right? The last time they're going to come around, and they say, is there anything else I can get for you? And I always have the same answer: social justice and world peace. And they think I'm kidding. And so I have to talk to them a while. I say, they might be back in the kitchen there, maybe in a place where you don't look very often. I don't know, move the broom out of the way. You could be back there. These are the important things, people.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Uh,
yes, I'm making light of it, but hopefully I'm getting somebody to actually think about our place in this world and
mm,
what it means to be here at this point in human history.
mhm.
I don't
Um,
think I get any of them to think, actually.
well, again, like, how steeped are we in the cultural conditioning? Like how much of, again, I would ask, how much media have you absorbed on a regular basis that is and that has communicated a particular story of human life? Like, how many TV shows, how many movies, and I guess, how many cultural institutions are you affiliated with that communicate that same kind of story,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
Like, I don't think people appreciate how steeped we are in it. Like it's like being hypnotized, right? You're so hypnotized by it. Um, and to have conversations like this I think, is viewed as extremely rebellious, because we're basically saying everything that people think is normal, or a lot of things that what we think is normal ways of living, normal ways of thinking, normal ways of being, like, it's all screwed. Like, it's screwed.
Right, right.
And, like, why would there be so many hundreds or thousands of people seeking out therapy if it wasn't screwed? That's one of my big questions, right? And I've had this conversation with colleagues, like, we're never going to be out of work ever, because the way that we live induces illness
Right.
over and over and over and over, right? Um, Not only in us, but in our habitat, it
So
induces illness.
if you therapists would just fix it, it wouldn't be a
Well,
self-repeating sort of thing.
And the funny thing is that people sometimes want us to have a magic wand, and we're like, no, we don't have a magic wand. Like you can, individuals can learn how to be healthy, but we can't magically fix someone. Like your son who's been sitting on the couch unmotivated because of all the ways you've enabled that lack of motivation or whatever. Like fix him in a couple of sessions. Are you kidding me? Like, so I don't know. Like, I don't know how to end this one.
Oh, I know exactly how to end it. I know exactly how to end it. Remember, the final sentence in the description is reaching out to a friend, family member, or mental health provider can help you work through your feelings and practice coping skills. You're a mental health
Uh,
provider. And so
yep,
you can talk about your free course, and that
yep,
will lead people to head in the right direction with respect to their own emotional and mental
yeah.
feelings.
Well, I mean, you can access my course at freebpdcourse.com. You can learn about me and how I work through things. And it's pretty much everything that I've learned. Well, not everything, but a very big chunk of what I've learned about health and well-being. Um, how to do it, specifically the right tools, uh, the right information sources, the right experts to learn from is in my course at freebpdcourse.com. Um, but I mean, I like to say also that there's lots of other professionals out there and even just whatever amateur mental health people who are they're sharing videos on their experiences with things too. And I guess YouTube is a pretty good resource for that in many cases. One of the ones that I've been enjoying is called selfhelptunes.com on at YouTube. I got a fellow Canadian psychotherapist. He's all these animated videos, and they're really actually they're nice. They're simple, straightforward, and he has a really gentle tone in the way that he explains things.
And what's
Um,
it called again? Okay.
selfhelptunes.com.
Hmm.
Selfhelptunes.com. He does courses in both CBT and DBT as well. But I mean,
And
again, he's one of
can,
many.
can you explain those acronyms?
CBT is cognitive behavioral therapy, which has been around for many years, and then dialectical behavior therapy, which has been around for the last 10 or 20 years or so. It's a kind of a little bit more um, comprehensive version of CBT. It's CBT plus a bunch of skill sets wrapped around it,
Mhm.
and it's researched and proven to work well for some of the most severe mental health disorders like BPD. So a good one to learn about to preserve your health and the health of others. But I mean, I think conversations are good to have. I guess I'll just say if you can have them with people who know how to converse, right? So sometimes people don't won't have people like that in their midst, and that's really sad and unfortunate. Sometimes the only way they can have a healthy interaction is with a professional. So they might need to access a therapist. And there's lots of services emerging that are now online, and you don't have to go into an office. I'm working entirely online now, and in different for different areas of Canada. So I don't know. There's options out there. Not to say that they would completely fix everything in terms of communication, but I mean, I guess there's, like we said there's online communities. You could find some good interaction opportunities there. Um, if it's possible to connect with a therapist, you could do that. If you could encourage your family members to learn more about some of the things we're talking about here and access some of these resources, for the point of preserving the relationships in their family. Uh, I mean, we really suffer from ignorance, Guy, because it's really a lot of the stuff that we've never known but should have known.
Hmm.
It's like it almost seems purposeful. Like, and I that's a bit conspiratorial, but is that right? Conspiratorial. It seems purposeful, like we've been kept in the dark about how to be healthy humans, how to have healthy relationships, how to live in our bodies. Why is this information not more mainstream? Like, isn't that seem purposeful to you? Like,
Well, Harvard professor Howard Gardner wrote a book called The Theory of the Theory of Multiple Intelligences, I think. I think that's right. And he described how we have all these different intelligences. For example, intrapersonal and interpersonal intelligence, the kinds of things that are never discussed in public schools. Instead, we focus on mathematical, logical, and language. And the language in this country is all English, right?
Right.
Nothing else. Well, there's a lot more to life than just those two things. There's intrapersonal intelligence. How do you perceive yourself? How do you think about your place in the universe? There's interpersonal intelligence, which is interactions between people, and people who are really good at that make great salespeople, right? And there's many, many more that we never talk about that most people would never even know about.
And yeah, I guess my ongoing question is why not? Like, why not? Like, if we know that these things are helpful and promote health and well-being and would make for happier people and communities, why are they not made a priority? And I think you've said it before because there's no money in it, but
Because there's this underlying mentality that there is one way to live.
right,
There's one way to live, and it's prescribed in this certain fashion.
right. And I guess, yeah, a lot of different cultures are competing to be the one true, the one right.
Right.
Uh, Right. And well, that's part of the insanity. Like there's so many competing one truths, one right ways. Um, and somehow we call that normal rather than relying on what has been researched in the psychological literature as what works. Anyone with any type of prescription, no matter how insane, can keep trying to sell it. Right.
Right.
Like that's the world we live
Right.
in. Yeah.
All right. Just a quick mention of your free BPD course at freebpdcourse.com.
Yep.
Why don't you just tell us a little bit about that and how it might help people?
Well, I think it's a good investment for anybody who is suffering with mental health problems of the more severe variety or even mild variety. It doesn't matter if you don't have BPD, it could still be a good resource for you to access, even if you have just a regular anxiety or a regular depression, or even if you're suffering in just some sort of relational challenge. You can learn stuff about human health and mental health and well-being so you can draw from it, I guess, even if you don't have BPD. It speaks to kind of like some of the very common challenges that we as humans experience. People with BPD experience them in a more profound way because their emotional challenges, they've inherited a more natural emotional sensitivity. It's kind of like I used to have a picture on my wall in my office of a giant wave, a guy surfing a giant wave.
Mhm.
And I say to people, okay, like if you have the inherited emotional sensitivity more than others, it's like you have to learn how to ride this big wave. And other people don't have to learn to ride big waves. They still have to learn, but they don't have to learn to ride the big ones, like the North Shore in Hawaii.
Right.
But people with BPD do, so they have to get more emotional skill. Because if they don't, they can have more toxicity on a bigger level.
Mhm.
And it's not because they're bad, it's because they never learned how to live in their body.
Right.
They never had the tools and the information, and their parents didn't know what they needed either. So they just
Right.
kept doing things that didn't work. It actually made it worse. So if you really want to be informed in a lot of ways, I would say check it out. And other similar resources like the one I was talking about today, selfhelptunes.com. I've got a mouthful today.
For years, I've been saying people shouldn't be allowed to get married or enter any sort of romantic relationship with somebody until they're postmenopausal. Postmenopausal, that would solve a lot of our problems right there. You don't even know yourself until you're postmenopausal. Come on, you want to connect with somebody else on a long-term basis and you don't even know yourself? That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that would prevent a lot of births, I think.
Yes, that would be a start. All right. Thank you very much, Peter Miller, for your insights in this series of conversations.
Thank you, Guy, for hosting these conversations.
And we'll look forward to doing it again in another month.